this is Ast3rix and welcome back to my channel. So tonight I'm going to be doing something completely different and it's going to be a lot of fun. So I've been in contact with one of my channel buddies, Focuz Musik, and if you've been watching his channel, you know that he's all about the challenges. So he is our resident output arcade guru. So I issued him a challenge. I was gonna send him the craziest sound that I could create with my Focuz module, and he has to incorporate not only an arcade sound, but he has to incorporate the sound that I'm sending him into the track as well. So a dual challenge. So this is the sound that I'm going to be sending you. So get ready. Here it goes. Hold on, let me show you what I did with it. Let me turn off all these other tracks so you can just hear what the sound sounds like in its bare essence. Okay, so I recorded this direct from the Focuz, from directly in from my UAD interface onto this track, and this is what it sounds like without any effects, and I'm gonna show you what it sounds like with effects too as well. Well, okay, hold on here. Okay, so that is what the sound sounds like without any effects on it. So I wanted it to be abrasive, so I added a Sound Toys decapitator, and this is what it sounds like with the decapitator turned on. Okay, so I didn't want to annoy you too much, so I had to tone it down a little bit. I added a Sound Toys Phase Mistress to it, and it kind of gave it a little bit of a resonance. Okay, so that's the sound that you're going to be getting. Now, I bounced that sound over so that I can keep the original, so I can send it to Focuz Musik, and I added some additional stuff to it for my track. So what we're doing is I'm gonna create a track with this sound too. This is not a competition. I just want to say that I'm just trying to be more creative, and I wanted to see what someone else could do with the sound that I'm creating, and it's amazing what he's doing over on his channel with all of the sounds out of the arcade. So I thought I would send this to him to see what he can do with it. So I added some extra stuff to it. So I added a backlash, which is made by Freak Show Industries. It's a reverse plugin, and I added a halftime because, oh man, it was like when it was going at its regular speed, I couldn't make it match with it. So I slowed it down 2 bars, and I with a mod of 2 times 2, so that slowed it down like half. And then I threw a fab filter in there to cut the lows out, because I don't want it to override with the sub bass that I've created. And I'll show you all the effects and stuff that I've done with all of the stuff in this track. It'll make a lot more sense once you see the entire all of the tracks. Okay, so this sound is a sound that's going to be continuing throughout the entire song, but in doing so, I don't want it to override or conflict with anything else that's going on. So the most predominant thing in this track is the sub bass. So I sidechained it with a compressor with the sub bass sound, and I've got it doing peaks with it. So when the sub hits, it ducks back out. So it's not as abrasive. And it's actually, when you're listening to it, it acts as like kind of a rhythmic kind of pattern with it. So that's what I did with my iteration of the sound. So let me just go ahead and play for you my version. I'm going to turn off that one so you can kind of hear what I did with my version of the sound that I'm going to be sending over to Focuz Musik. That's what I've got. So let me just kind of break down the other pieces. So as you saw, with that compression side chaining with the bass, that it's not as abrasive. So even though it's playing continuously throughout the entire song, when the sub kicks in, it kind of lowers the volume on it so that it's not actually overriding the sub. Since that's the most predominant part of the track. So on the sub itself, I've been messing around with distortion for harmonics. And that's something new that I've been playing with, guys. I have never played with distortion like that before. And I have to hip you to something that I found too on the Waves website. Waves actually has this plugin on sale right now. It's $29. It's the Manny Marroquin distortion plugin, and it's very flexible. It has really good drive. You can drive this thing to death, and you can do a lot of adjustments for just harmonics, like from a distortion perspective. I didn't really understand how adding noise to something in a kind of a white noise kind of way actually changes the sound, but it's about how sounds are created. So adding distortion kind of adds like a little bit of grit to the bass, and you can really, it makes it really kick really hard. That, and of course I am stuck on the Little Labs Voice of God. This thing is bananas and apples and all of that. It's the whole basket of fruit. This thing will make your sub rattle the trunk. When I take this track and take it to the car, my trunk is rattling. So I know that I got the bass right. You have to be very careful with it though. What I've found is the more that I use it, the more that I know what not to do with it. And you really have to watch the frequencies on it, along with the amplitude, the volume of it. You can really screw up your whole bass imaging if you make it too loud. But I've got it just right in the middle, and it's just wide enough to where it's not too loud or too distorted. So that's what I'm doing with the bass. Let's see what else I got going on in this track. Let's kind of go through it here. So I've got an arcade instance in there, and that was kind of part of the deal, as I had to have an instance of arcade. So what I'm using with arcade is, come on, open up. This plugin acts really weird inside of my Ableton instance. Okay, so I'm using Chopped, and I'm using this is like one of those piano-based, it's a dramatic classical piano. It's one of those piano-based sample packs. And you guys know I'm a piano nut. I love the sound of piano. Now, what I did notice right away with this piano is that it needed to be EQ'd. It has like a lot of mid-range in it. So I brought in just a generic Ableton 3-way EQ, and I knocked off some of the mids, and I added a dB or two to the highs to just kind of give it a little sparkle, because it was really sounding a little off to me. So that's what I did with the piano, and all it's doing is just, these are chopped up samples that I've created a pattern with. And okay, on to the next thing. The sub has two parts, not just one. This is a trick I just learned too. I have a secondary bass part in there, which is like an upper range kind of thump. But the thump is like, it alternates. And it alternates because I'm using an ARP for that. So if you look at the patterns that I'm using, so for my regular sub, here I'll just show you what's happening there. So I've got just a regular kind of 4 to the floor almost, with a rhythmic pattern to it. And then every few beats, I throw in like a little upper note value to it, but the upper note value gets kicked around by the ARP. So the ARP is set to random. And what it does is it makes the notes kind of do this weird kind of alternating pitch bend kind of sound. It's really, really cool. It's something I just learned how to do. So I've been playing around with that. So, I mean, guys, I've really learned from you guys on YouTube. All the YouTube producers who are actually creating music and creating videos showing people how to do stuff, I'm watching. Because I'm learning a lot from you guys. There's some really talented and amazing people out there sharing a lot of really good information. There's lots of things that I don't know how to do from a technical perspective with some of the music, especially some of the new music that's out. So I'm still kind of learning from a technical standpoint how to do some of that stuff. And I learn by doing. So I'm watching videos and listening and trying to take some of the information that you guys are providing out there, and I'm implementing it into my own music. So this was one trick that I just learned, and thank you, Mr. Different. I learned that from his channel. He has a little clip on there showing how to do these little crazy basses. So check him out. The next thing I have in there is a Workstation, and it's just a straight up kind of melodic part. And that's all it's doing. I put an Echo Boy on top of it with an output movement that has like a little bit of a rhythmic pattern, but I actually probably don't even need this in there. I could probably just get away with having the Echo Boy and the Pancake in there. Oh, sorry. The Pancake is actually doing a panning from left to right in a kind of slow, kind of left to right kind of motion. But it's doing it enough to where it's noticeable. So that's what I'm doing with that part. And then I've got some old generic drums in there, nothing special. I try to keep my drums kind of straight so that the sub is doing more of the work. So this is just kind of a basic rhythmic kick and a snare and a hat. That's all it's doing. Nothing special there. Pigments. So I decided to use pigments for like a little bit of this kind of an odd kind of, I wanted it actually to be a pad, but it ended up being a little bit something different. So I'll just play what it is. So it's kind of an echoey kind of pad. And it gives it like a little bit of dynamics. And I'm doing a low pass cutoff on that one too. So what I try to do is, or what I've learned, is that you want all of the parts to not step on the bass. So anything that doesn't really need low end, I'll do a low pass cutoff on it so that it doesn't step on the bass. So the bass is, you know, it's the most predominant part of the song. And then I've got some wacky Vox tracks in there that, you know, they're just wacky. And then I've got a back, that reverse plug-in in there too. Hold on, I'll show you that one. The back mask is going, and the Echo Boy is on that as well. So that is what I have for this track. So be on the lookout on Focuz Music's channel. Let's see what he can do with this sound. And I'm signing off. I'll see you on the other side. Before you go, so anybody interested in jumping in on this challenge, I have posted a link at the bottom of the video in the comment section with this sound. If you're interested in trying to come up with something with this sound, please leave your link to your page in the comment section so that we can hear what you came up with the link to your website. I'm signing off for real this time. Peace.